You've probably heard the story. It's one of the greatest tales in martial arts lore. A monster of a man, a 6'3", 240-pound karate champion, is in a packed room, and he publicly mocks Bruce Lee's art. He calls it a joke, a performance, not a real fighting system. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. This giant isn't just some big guy. He's a decorated champion whose entire life is built on the rigid, powerful traditions of karate. And the man he's challenging, Bruce Lee. Smaller, lighter, and in the eyes of the martial arts establishment, a cocky outsider who has no respect for the very traditions this champion represents. The legend goes that Lee, quiet and coiled, accepts the challenge. No rules, no rounds, no points. Just one question hanging in the air. Whose art is better? The fight is over in exactly 5 seconds. 5 seconds of shocking speed that leaves the champion on the ground, totally bewildered. 5 seconds that become a legend. It's the ultimate David versus Goliath story, a tale of speed and philosophy, crushing brute size and rigid dogma. It's maybe the most inspiring story of Bruce Lee's real-life fighting skill. But what if I told you that when you try to find any historical record of this fight, the champion's name, the date, the location, you hit a dead end? This is the story of what really happened. Not just in those mythical 5 seconds, but in the years of philosophy, conflict, and innovation that created a legend so powerful it could give birth to a story like this. To get the 5-second knockout, you first have to understand the world Bruce Lee was trying to shatter. So let's picture that room. The legend gives us this incredible image. We'll call the opponent the Titan. He isn't just a big dude, he's a symbol. He's a multiple-time world karate champion, a man at the top of his game who got there by following strict rules and traditions. He moves with the confidence of someone who has never been truly challenged, whose size alone ends most fights before they even start. As the story goes, the event was a big public martial arts exhibition. The Titan, as a respected master, was giving a demonstration. In the audience, Bruce Lee. During a Q&A, someone brings up Lee, asking the champ for his thoughts on this newfangled kung fu and Lee's controversial ideas. The Titan, according to the legend, scoffs. He dismisses Lee's art, what would later become Jeet Kune Do, as nothing more than undisciplined street fighting. He calls it flashy, a dance with no substance, and says that in a real fight, a guy Lee's size would be broken in half. It's a direct public slap in the face, not just to Lee, but to his entire philosophy, his life's work, and his students. All eyes snap to Bruce Lee. He's right there in the room. He could laugh it off, ignore it, and walk away. But Lee's philosophy wasn't just talk. It was built on finding truth in combat. Backing down from a direct challenge would mean admitting his art was a fraud. He walks toward the floor. The room goes dead silent. Lee, at 5'7" and maybe 140 pounds, looks impossibly small next to the 240-pound Titan. The champion has a smug look on his face. This is exactly what he wanted. He's about to make a very public, very brutal example of this arrogant kid. The deal is simple. First man to put the other on the ground, unable to continue, wins. The Titan sinks into his deep, powerful karate stance, solid as a rock, unmovable. He is a fortress. Bruce, on the other hand, is loose, almost bouncing on the balls of his feet. His hands aren't in any recognizable fighting posture. He's fluid, unpredictable. He is water. The Titan makes his move. He starts to throw a powerful, orthodox punch, a technique that has won him championships. But the punch never lands. It doesn't even get halfway there. Because in the fraction of a second it takes for the Titan's brain to send that signal, Bruce Lee has already exploded. The legend says it was pure Jeet Kune Do, a lightning-fast stop kick to the Titan's lead knee, breaking his balance. Before the pain even hits, Lee's fingers jab toward the eyes, forcing the giant to flinch. And in that tiny moment of distraction, the storm begins, a blur of chain punches hammering the champion's chest and face, not with brute force, but with shocking, percussive speed. The Titan, who's never been hit this fast, this many times, can't even process it. The final blow, as the story goes, is a powerful side kick to the chest that lifts the 240-pound man clean off his feet and sends him crashing to the floor. Bruce Lee stands over him, not even breathing hard. The fight is over. It took 5 seconds. It's a perfect story, almost too perfect. And to understand what it really means, we have to leave the legend behind and step into history. To get why a story like the 5-second fight even exists, you have to understand the American martial arts scene in the early 1960s. It was a world dominated by tradition, honor, and above all, rigid structure. Karate and judo were the kings, brought to the U.S. by servicemen and pioneering Asian instructors. These schools, for the most part, ran on a system of deep respect for forms, or kata. You learned from a master, and you simply did not question the master. You drilled the same blocks and punches thousands of times. The styles were pure. A karateka practiced karate. A judoka practiced judo. Mixing them was often seen as disrespectful. For many, competition was a point-based game where landing a clean, controlled blow was more important than actual combat effectiveness. Into this rigid world comes Bruce Lee. Lee had trained in Wing Chun under the legendary Ip Man, but he was also hungry for knowledge. He studied Western boxing, fencing, street fighting, and philosophy. And he came to a radical, almost offensive conclusion. Clinging to one classical style was a form of blindness. He famously said, "The classical man is just a bundle of routine, ideas, and tradition. He is a slave to a pattern." Lee openly called the flowery mess of traditional styles impractical. A real street fight, he argued, doesn't follow rules. It's chaotic and brutal. Why practice a block that takes 3 moves when one direct one could end the threat? Why back away to reset when you could intercept your opponent's attack before it even started? This was the core of his new philosophy, Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. This message was a huge threat to the old guard. Here was this young, cocky, and incredibly sharp guy telling masters that their life's work might not hold up in a real confrontation. He wasn't just introducing a new style, he was attacking their very identity. His critics loved to point out that Lee had no major tournament wins, using it to dismiss him. But for Lee, that was a point of pride. He saw tournaments as unrealistic games that built bad habits. He only cared about what worked, period. This put him on a collision course with the traditional martial arts world. The tension was real, and everyone was talking about Bruce Lee. So if the 5-second fight is a myth, where did its DNA come from? It came from a very real, very messy, and much more important fight in Oakland, California in late 1964. This wasn't against a mythical titan, but a man named Wong Jack Man. The reasons for this fight are hotly debated to this day. The most popular version, from Bruce's wife Linda Lee Cadwell, is that the traditional Chinese martial arts community in San Francisco was furious that Bruce was teaching their secrets to non-Chinese students. They sent Wong Jack Man, a respected Northern Shaolin practitioner, with an ultimatum. Stop teaching non-Chinese or fight. Wong Jack Man's side of the story is completely different. He claimed Bruce was the one who arrogantly boasted he could beat any martial artist in San Francisco, and Wong was just answering the open challenge. Whatever the reason, the fight happened. It was in Bruce's small Oakland school with only a handful of witnesses. No cameras, no reporters, just 2 men and their opposing philosophies. And the fight was nothing like the clean, 5-second legend. According to Linda Lee, Bruce won decisively in about 3 minutes, chasing Wong around the room until he surrendered. But that's far from the only account. Wong and his supporters claimed the fight was much longer, maybe 20 to 25 minutes, and was more of a draw. Some say Lee had trouble with Wong's evasive footwork, and that Lee ended the fight winded, not with a clean knockout. We'll likely never know the complete objective truth of what happened. But what we do know is how Bruce felt afterward. He was horrified, not because he thought he lost, but because the fight took him so long. By his own standards, his performance was a failure. He was gasping for air, and he realized his conditioning wasn't enough for a no-holds-barred fight. The Wong Jack Man fight, in all its messy reality, was the true catalyst for Jeet Kune Do. It was the frustrating experience that forced him to reevaluate everything. It pushed him to evolve beyond his Wing Chun roots and become a true artist of combat. That night, a myth wasn't born, but a mission was. After the exhausting fight with Wong Jack Man, Bruce Lee became obsessed. He filled notebooks with his thoughts, sketches, and philosophies. This period of intense self-critique was the fire in which Jeet Kune Do was truly forged. It was never meant to be just another style. Lee later regretted even naming it, afraid the name itself would become another box. JKD was a philosophy in physical form. Its core principles were revolutionary. First, absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. This was heresy. Lee was saying that no single style has all the answers. He systematically studied everything: the footwork of fencing, the punches of boxing, the trapping of Wing Chun, and grappling from other arts. The second key principle was simplicity, directness, and freedom. JKD cuts out all wasted motion. If the goal is to hit someone, take the most direct path. If an opponent attacks, don't block, then counter. Intercept. Your defense becomes your offense. This idea of intercepting was the heart of the art. His training regimen became legendary. He was a pioneer of cross-training, using weights for strength and intense cardio for endurance. Anecdotes from his students paint a picture of a man who was constantly experimenting, sparring with everyone from boxers to judo black belts to see what worked. He used analogies to explain it all, most famously, be like water. Water can flow or it can crash. It's formless, shapeless, yet it can fit into any container. That was the ideal for a fighter. To be so adaptable you could react to any situation without being trapped by a rigid style. This new art wasn't about adding more, but taking away. It was about stripping away ego, tradition, and inefficient movement until only the truth of the moment remained. This was the weapon he was forging. If you're finding this deep dive into the mythology and reality of Bruce Lee fascinating, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're dedicated to separating fact from fiction in the world of martial arts, and your support helps us continue to tell these incredible stories. Now, let's get back to how Bruce Lee demonstrated his explosive new philosophy to a stunned public. While the challenge matches were often private, shadowy affairs, Bruce Lee's public demonstrations were where he put his principles on display. His most famous appearances were at Ed Parker's Long Beach International Karate Championships in 1964 and 1967. These were gatherings of the martial arts elite, the very people whose traditions Lee was challenging. And he didn't just show up, he stole the show. He didn't perform long, traditional forms. He demonstrated attributes. At the 1964 event, he performed his now famous one-inch punch. A volunteer, Bob Baker, stood with a pad on his chest. From just an inch away, Lee generated an explosive force that sent the larger man flying backward into a chair. Baker reportedly said the pain in his chest was so unbearable he had to miss work. This wasn't a trick. It was a demonstration of kinetic energy. To the karate masters in the crowd, it looked like magic. Then there was the 1967 tournament and the legendary unstoppable punch demonstration with Vic Moore, a high-ranking karate champion. The popular story is that Lee told Moore he was going to punch him, and Moore couldn't block a single one. But the reality is more nuanced. Moore himself disputed that account, and surviving footage shows him successfully parrying some of Lee's strikes. The point wasn't that the punch was literally unstoppable. It was a stunning display of speed and efficiency. Lee was proving that his movements were so direct and lacked any tells that a traditional fighter's block would often be too late. These demonstrations, seen by hundreds of accomplished martial artists, were the seeds of the legend. Men like Joe Louis and Chuck Norris, who would become legends themselves, witnessed Lee's abilities and were profoundly influenced by his ideas. Lee wasn't just showing off, he was teaching. He was proving that the principles of Jeet Kune Do were demonstrable facts. These were the public displays that made the private stories seem not just possible, but probable. So let's circle back. We've seen the world Bruce Lee challenged, the real fight that changed him, the philosophy he created, and the public proof of his incredible skills. Now we have to confront the legend of the 240-pound karate champion. Did Bruce Lee really destroy him in 5 seconds? After looking at historical records, biographies, and first-hand accounts, the answer is almost certainly no. There is simply no credible evidence that this specific fight ever happened. No name for the champion, no date, no verifiable witnesses. It doesn't appear in any serious biography or in Bruce Lee's own extensive notes. So where did the story come from? It's most likely a composite legend, a mashup of truth, exaggeration, and folklore. The story is a parable that gets at a larger truth. The 240-pound karate champion isn't a person. He's a symbol of the rigid, dogmatic traditionalism that Bruce Lee fought against his whole career. And the 5-second knockout isn't a historical event. It's a metaphor for the shocking efficiency of Jeet Kune Do. The story takes the frustration of the Wong Jack Man fight, the power of the 1-inch punch, the speed of the unstoppable punch, and the core philosophy of JKD, and boils it all down into one perfect cinematic tale. It's the story of what should have happened, of what Bruce Lee's philosophy promised. It's the ultimate expression of his art, even if the event itself is fiction. For a second, let's treat the legend not as history, but as a blueprint. If we were to stage this mythical fight using only the principles of Jeet Kune Do, how would you beat a 240-pound champ in 5 seconds? This is how the story becomes a lesson. The fight starts. The Titan, our symbol of tradition, plants his feet. He's strong, stable, rooted. That's his strength. But in JKD, it's also his biggest weakness. He's predictable. Second one, the intercept. The Titan starts his attack, probably a powerful telegraphed punch. Bruce doesn't retreat or block. He intercepts. As the Titan's weight comes forward, Bruce uses a stop kick to the shin or kneecap. It's not about causing major injury. It's about disrupting the attack, breaking his balance, and creating an opening. The Titan's game plan is shut down before it even starts. Seconds 2 and 3, the flow. The interception created a tiny gap. The Titan's mind is still catching up. Bruce is already moving, closing the distance, and flowing into his next attack without a pause. This is where you'd see the famous chain punching, a flurry of rapid-fire punches aimed at the center line, nose, chin, solar plexus. The goal isn't a knockout, but to overwhelm his senses and keep him so off balance he can't fight back. The Titan is now purely defensive, stuck in a storm he can't see coming. Seconds 4 and 5, the finisher. The chain punches did their job. The Titan is dazed. Now, and only now, does Bruce commit to a power shot. Having used his hands to create the opening, he would likely finish with his feet, his longest, most powerful weapon. The legendary finishing blow is a powerful sidekick to the body. It isn't just a leg movement. It's generated from the ground up, the whole body twisting into the blow. It lifts the 240-pound man off his feet, not just through raw power, but through perfect timing and body mechanics. That is the 5-second fight. Not a brawl, but a sequence of principles. Interception, economy of motion, and flowing seamlessly from one technique to the next. It's the physical expression of the JKD philosophy. The legend sticks around, not because it's a true story of a fight, but because it's a true story of a philosophy. In the end, asking whether Bruce Lee fought a 240-pound karate champion is the wrong question. The real story isn't about the fights he won, real or imagined. The real story is about the ideas he championed. Bruce Lee forced an entire generation of martial artists to look in the mirror and ask a scary question: does what I do actually work? He didn't just create a new style. He introduced a new way of thinking, based on critical analysis and personal expression. Many consider him the philosophical father of modern mixed martial arts. Every MMA fighter who combines boxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu is, in a way, living proof of Bruce Lee's philosophy. The myth of the 5-second fight endures because it's the perfect parable for his impact. Bruce Lee, the idea, did destroy the rigid dogma of traditional martial arts. And he did it with shocking, world-altering speed. He showed that a smaller, smarter, more adaptable approach could overcome a larger, more powerful, but less flexible opponent. That's true whether you're talking about 2 men in a room or 2 competing ideas in the world. He taught us that the goal wasn't just to collect techniques, but to honestly express ourselves. As he famously said, there are no limits, There are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them. So what really happened when a 240-pound karate champion mocked Bruce Lee? What happened was a collision of ideas that sent shockwaves through the martial arts world. The story of the 5-second fight might be a legend, but it's a legend that tells the truth. It speaks to the revolutionary power of Bruce Lee's mind, the devastating effectiveness of his philosophy, and the fact that sometimes the most powerful force in the world isn't a punch, but a new idea. Bruce Lee was more than a fighter. He was a philosopher with fists, and his impact is still being felt today. He taught us all to be formless, shapeless, to be like water. And water, as we all know, can change the shape of the world.